anybody who knows anything knows that Kevin Smith is a habitual weed smoker. Of course, his characters are stoners and have been since day one and stuff. So like marijuana culture has been in his movies since the beginning, but he was a more or less straight edge guy until 2008 when he was on the last day of shooting Zack and Miri Make a Porno. Seth Rogen introduced him to pot and they smoked together. And
damn
he enjoyed
Seth Rogen.
Yeah. And then that'll be a great segue for later too. And then like he put it down for a bit. Then Zack and Miri failed, which it wasn't supposed to because it had Seth Rogen in it at the time. If Seth Rogen was in a movie, it was in a comedy, it made $100 million. So he was super depressed. Like, okay, I'll never make my $100 million, I guess was his position. And he watched a bunch of Wayne Gretzky documentaries and he became like a nonstop weed smoker. And that's how I knew him to, and I remember in his old podcast, he would make comments like, I have rules for myself. Like I never smoke before I go on stage. And that fell away kind of quick. And then it was, I'm not allowed to smoke. I'm only allowed to smoke if I'm being productive, if I'm editing a podcast, if I'm whatever. So it's like another rule. The way he describes it now, for 5 years, 2008 to 2013, call it, he was a moderate weed smoker.
I enjoy smoking so that I could show off and be like, look at the 19 things I'm doing. I'm baked out of my mind.
So then for another 5 years, he says he did it more. Then he had his heart attack and he says that he did it nonstop. So like he never did an hour go by where he didn't have a joint in his hands was the way he described it. So the question is like, why would somebody pick up a habit like that and overdo it, to the extreme? And I found with him, he had his heart attack and you find out like, oh, he was like mainlining like whole milk. He was like drinking a ton of whole milk. Like he like overindulged in, so he like kind of,
It's got like an addictive personality in a way.
Yeah, well, he'll pick a thing. He'll then allow himself to indulge it as much as he'd like. And then he starts talking about it in his routine and in his comedy. And that like forgives all of it. Like take me or leave me. I'm self-aware about my habit, whatever, whether it's milk or weed or whatever.
Yeah. And he smoked regular cigarettes before that too, right?
Right. And yeah, so he did a lot to rationalize and defend the habit. One was he was like, I put down cigarettes smoking. So had I continued to do that, I would have had more complications during my heart attack.
Might not be alive because I'd still be smoking cigarettes. So I'd probably die of that fucking widowmaker and shit.
I started to figure out as a big fan of his for a long time that, he's got some kind of anxiety problem. Yeah. Like and it was related to, I think, his meteoric rise and then these failures that kept coming. And then like the success again. And then and I think he was just like kind of living in constant fear of like the party might be over soon. And like, I hit the lottery and then I got the lottery taken away from me and I got it again.
But then there came a point in my life where fucking shit, the bottom fell out. And that was when like, post cop out and shit, where I was like, oh, nobody's into these antics anymore or anything like that.
If you watch his pre-weed interviews or documentary, like the making of Clerks 2, even, you kind of can tell, like on his podcast, he used to do this very funny bit with Scott Mosier where they would listen to this old audio recording he did when he was in like high school and or maybe college. It was called Emo Kev. And it was him just talking like very bleakly about his future. And, they're like laughing about it because his future turned out so well. And,
it had to happen. Love.
24 karat case of love.
Holy shit, dude.
But it to some degree, it kind of is like happy-go-lucky weed Kevin and like pre-weed Kevin. Like right. I think his natural disposition is to be kind of negative and to be pessimistic and sad and emotional. And so I think he realized this reduces his anxiety and it makes him uninhibited. So he started doing weird things. Like instead of trying to play in the big leagues and make $100 million with his movies, maybe I'll 4-wall it and I'll open a podcast studio and I'll do this. And he started like spinning more plates, and that was fun for him. And he could kind of just play to his audience.
I spent the first half of my career looking over the fence, worried that I was going to lose everything that I have. In that time, I had to come to grips with the fact that like, it'll never be like it was, but it could potentially be something else. If I wasn't a stoner, I probably would have been like, fuck, that movie lost money. I gotta fucking make a movie that makes money and shit. I gotta get on that track where you make a fucking movie that makes money, and I gotta get one. And desperation breeds contempt and failure as well.
You know, especially as the audience declined, or as everybody kind of got sick of him, and the weed kind of just like papered over that. So I always, and then you started to hear people after a while be like, man, like there's a clear distinction between pre-weed and post-weed creative content. Like his old stuff was really good, or much better, and his current stuff is just not. So the thing that you maybe have never heard, EJ, was he went on that podcast, Tell Him Steve Dave, the one that his friends do, the guy from Impractical Jokers, Q, and then Walt and Brian, his childhood friends. Walt did run the his comic book store, Jay and Silent Bob Secret Stash. And then they did that Comic Book Men AMC show, which is excellent. That's a great show. Really, really fun. Because Walt is like a creative genius, it turns out. And they figured out how to do this like big, awesome Patreon with their cast of characters. And yeah, it rings kind of like Red Cowish at the time, at times.
Right.
I've said before, imagine if our channel was just behind a Patreon. That's kind of like what they're doing over there.
Yeah, we're like halfway there.
So they set up like a green screen studio in the stash, and they relocated the stash. It was about 1.5 years ago. Kevin was in Jersey and he came on the show. I got to tell you, for a show that was birthed out of like, he's the one who enabled it. The show doesn't fit him.
Right.
He's too hosty. He's too talky. He's too the Kevin Smith show. And these guys are like a different thing. They're like a low key, very quirky, very modest, very self-deprecating. Like it's a totally different vibe.
Yeah, he's got too much of gravitational pull around him.
Yes. And so fans of their show are just naturally going to be like, ew, this guy's hogging the airtime and stuff. For those who are interested, go look up. It's like Tell Him Steve Dave and Smodcast, like a crossover episode, and it's part 3 of it. And for the first hour, so Walt, who is straight edge, had some kind of off-camera call with Kevin, where he told Kevin they had some like large conversation for 2 hours. I think part of it was about their store. Kevin, I don't think Walt wanted to be the manager anymore, and the other half was about Kevin being addicted to marijuana. And he was like, he said, like, I wish I had said something earlier. You have a serious problem. Like, he laid into him. And Kevin thought this was very quaint, very inexperienced of Walt. Walt doesn't know what he's talking about.
When you got so mad that you were like, fuck you, you're a stoner addict, everything got peaceful because I was like, oh, no, I'm not.
Like, for those who think, like, you can't be addicted to weed, I implore you to watch this video, because you watch an addict rationalize. He explains to them why weed has brought him all of his joy in life. He tells them that aside from saving his life physically, that they would not have success had it not been for him picking up marijuana. He says, he's like, yeah, because, if I would have been like, oh my God, I'm failing in my career. Everybody fend for yourselves. And I wouldn't have been concerned about what's going to happen to Brian after Comic Book Men, or, but with weed, I go, what's Brian going to do? That's like how he communicated this. And he's like, yeah, and you guys would be broke. He kept saying stuff like that. And you could tell that they were pretty hurt by it. Like, and Walt, absolutely amazing responses. Just a masterclass in Kevin is being a child. Even he doesn't realize it, but he's being a child. And Walt is being a dad.
Wow.
And every so often, Walt would just come out with 5 words that would just topple the whole thing. He'd say something. He'd be like, yeah, I don't think that you're being, I don't think that's an accurate statement that the guy I became friends with would just throw his friends aside like that.
It just cuts right through it.
Doesn't he realize the whole country's about to go legal? Like this shit is tame. It's like tamer than cigarettes.
But you have to look at it from my point of view. I've seen people that I knew before they were doing this and didn't need this, and now it looks like they need it bad.
Like who? Like me?
Kevin Smith, that I became friends with,
Yes.
would have realized that, like, I don't need to throw anybody over the board to be
Perhaps, but perhaps by then it would have been too late and I would have already thrown people overboard. I told Walter at one point too, I was like, Walt, if I wasn't a stoner, we wouldn't even be friends anymore. Like if I wasn't a stoner, I would have fucking threw everyone over the fucking boat to save me and myself.
I think at one point we're going to have a conversation and you're going to realize that you didn't need weed to do all that.
If you could flip me, that'd be amazing.
And I'm not going to flip you. It's going to be something else, but I don't think it's going to be me.
What would it be?
Who knows what it'll be?
Well,
what about
like,
a mental dependency,
Well, that's a great question. Do I have a mental dependency? I don't think so, because in the course of a week, I was never like, where's my fucking weed? There'd be no Patreon if I wasn't a stoner. I wouldn't have given a shit that he's out of money and shit. I would have been like, what the fuck? I just lost a TV show. I'm out of fucking money. But because I was a stoner, I was like, what's going to happen to Bri?
That's painting yourself an inaccurate picture of the man that I became friends with, though, who just cared about himself, though.
If I didn't have a haze of fucking smoke around me, because I'd be fucking forced to deal with
But wouldn't you
these
come to that
negative
conclusion
feelings.
anyway, though?
Nothing but positive has come from smoking weed in my life. And I think I've illustrated that. The thought that you would have been troubled in any way, shape, or form, he might be wealthy, but you guys would be fucking broke. Like, because all of the jobs came from weed.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is how I explained it to Walt, and it's an analogy that I've become very fond of. I could eat spaghetti plain. Why would I ever eat spaghetti without sauce? Sauce just improves it. It doesn't mean I need the sauce to eat the spaghetti, but my God, it just makes it better.
But you realize literally for the last hour, every single thing you equate to weed, though.
Yes.
Everything,
Yes.
it feels like.
Yes.
That's not normal.
It really did allow all of this shit to happen.
It didn't. You were stone cold sober when you made Clerks.
Yes.
So this brings us up to present. This brings us through the Nutty and Wild Clerks 3 and some dubious creative decisions there. And Kevin has lost more weight. That's good, I guess. No. He's down to 180 pounds. He's like a 5'11" guy or something. So that's a great weight.
I am at my adult thinnest. I weigh 180 pounds, Mark, which when I was a senior in high school, I weighed 185 pounds.
He's been living on the East Coast, on top of his new Smodcast theaters. He now owns a straight up movie theater.
Oh, wow.
He has it's not Patreon. It's called That Kevin Smith Club. So there's a paywall where he does this paywall podcast called Wake and Bake, where every morning he talks to his audience. And he vanished from that for 1 month, 30 days. Other people did it. And he canceled all live appearances, like spontaneously. Went away for 30 days. And again, he's been spending all of his time on the East Coast. He then put up 3 podcasts. One where he confirmed it on his Fat Man Beyond show. He lost the weight and, well, what I'll get to in a moment. This paywall thing has the most information by far. And then Hollywood Babble-on, this entertainment show that he does.
You're going to curate the information for us. Yeah. Thank you.
So he has given up marijuana permanently.
Cold.
He said, I'm not going back.
This is the first Fat Man Beyond that I've done not stoned. Quit smoking weed. It was 5 weeks yesterday. So I'm crisp and very here, kids.
The weed was a bandage, an effective bandage for a wound that he had, which was fear, worry, doubt, anxiety. And that it didn't, it's like any addiction. It didn't actually repair that wound. And so he had to smoke more and he had to smoke more. And he said, eventually I became a mummy and I wasn't experiencing anything anymore. I was like completely distant and separate from my relationships. Couldn't think clearly or make good decisions. So that's a pretty big statement.
Yeah. That's if you can't make good decisions, what decisions are you making?
Also that he didn't want to be alone with his own thoughts. That was partly why he smoked all this weed. He is down in the dumps. And he says that there's a much bigger story that he will tell someday, but that he has a lot of trauma and that you will be hearing him talk about trauma a lot in the coming weeks, months, years. He's going through some kind of cognitive behavioral therapy where he does these games. Like there's one called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where it's like, you have to name all your senses. Like, give me 5 things you see. Like I see the laptop, I see the light. Give me 4 things you hear, 3 things you smell, 2 things you feel, whatever. And the idea being, and then at the end, you have to say aloud, it's okay. You got this. You can stand down, to try to like make yourself stop trying to prepare for the next thing. He also said something like, he was like, I didn't die of my heart attack. I know some people wish I had. And normally he'll make self-deprecating remarks like that, but he's been across the 3 podcasts, like he really hit that point. He's like, I know some people wish I was dead. It just sounded weird and sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Down in weight, no weed, no fun, but still alive, which apparently could be a good thing depending on who you ask.
So then on the Hollywood Babble-on show, he said that he is in Codependence Anonymous, CODA.
I recently started going to a 12-step program, not for booze, not for drugs, but for codependency. I'm a deeply codependent person.
So something happened. And my guess is it's not like he just suddenly one day had a revelation that this weed stuff is too much.
Yeah,
I
something
think that
dramatic happened in his relationships.
Let's see if we think in the same direction. Given everything that I just described, you got any theories?
I mean, you have to jump to marital problems.
Yeah. It seems, especially if he's been living on the East Coast. So it seems to me something happened with his wife, and he concluded that the reason he hasn't been managing his relationship properly is because of the pot.
Yeah.
And he said that that he's been, at the time of the recording, he's been off of it for 5 weeks, and that he's like way more crisp, and can't believe how much, how aware you can be in life when you're not just smoking your brain.
I mean, it's got to be when you are on any substance, right? Like even when, you like, I actually gave up booze for Lent.
Oh, nice.
And it's just even like just having a couple weeks without booze, it's like, oh yeah, all right. It's good to have a refresh. It's good.
Well, absence makes the heart grow fonder too. If it's something you're not trying to give up cold turkey, but you just kind of want to like enjoy again, sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you drink it and you don't even like taste it anymore, or it's like you want to enjoy it as if it's
Sugar's like that too.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's another thing. Which I think he was probably dependent on that too. If you've seen his jorts back in the early 2000s,
I read some people being like, "Is this going to be his whole personality now? Is I gave up weed?" And
does it every time.
I'm kind of sympathetic to it though, obviously, because I'm sympathetic with Kevin about a lot of things, and same with James Rolfe, mind you. I mean, the reason I'm so fascinated by these guys is they're a bit of a mirror for me. But. When you overcome a really bad demon, you spend a lot of time thinking about it, and you spend a lot of time trying to keep yourself in check. Although, it's interesting. I just sat through a sermon this past Sunday that was all about like if all you do is spend time trying to overcome your sin, like if like every podcast you listen to is about overcoming that sin or what, your addiction or whatever, like eventually like you're just kind of still living in that addiction nonstop. Like you never really just walk in freedom. You never kind of just walk away from it and go, like, yeah, that's behind me. That's old me,
Even when we're living in victory, so often it's because we're completely consumed with not doing that thing. Because our minds are completely consumed. We're obsessed with not doing something. It's still on the front and the back and every side of our mind. What he's called us to is the renewing of our mind, which then ushers in a transformation. And we're back on the journey and out of the circle.
It's interesting. It's like even during recovery, you can kind of...
Yeah, there's a balance that you can strike.
I think for Kevin, like his therapy is to talk about it all the time. But I imagine like Jason Mewes doesn't necessarily want to be talking about his heroin. He's like 20 years out from his heroin addiction by now. He's got 2 children. He probably doesn't want to be talking about his heroin addiction like it's like a present part of his life,
Yeah, I'm sure every addict, has, there's almost like a camaraderie, and especially when you're through a program, you have to bring 3 people through it, and you still remember it. But yeah, you still have to live your life. You still have to move on.
And Kevin always would say, he'd be like, they had a podcast called Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, and he would have Jay say how many days he's been clean, and he would tell some drug story because he had a lot of them. He eventually ran out of them, thank God. But Kevin would go, hey, everybody, we're not here to be preachy, man, even though we're talking about how bad drugs are. The only message here, man, is handle your fucking high. He would always say, handle your high.
Our ethos is handle your fucking high. That's it. If you can handle it, fantastic. If you can't, like this fool, back away from it and shit like that.
He's like, my high is I'm like, here's the thing, dude. Like, you don't get to determine whether or not your high is handled. That's for your friends and for your loved ones to tell you. That's
right.
it. Like,
I know. Well, yeah, unless you don't care about those relationships, then they might fall apart.
Yeah, and being like the leader of all of his relationships too, I'm sure is challenging. Where like, who gets to correct him in love?
True.
Especially like when he latches onto that stuff. And I hear he's like habitually kind of he's become kind of famous for like picking up projects and dropping them, and I don't know how much of that's the weed. I am confident that the weed hurt is creative work, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's good to be critical of your own work.
Yeah.
And the weed made him not critical of it. Like he'd go like, like anything that I'm generating here is fine.
Then when he's writing He-Man, he just lies about his work.
Oh yeah, and then that's the other thing is, so immediately thereafter, it was announced that he's been working on a Green Hornet cartoon with like some of the same team as did this horrible He-Man show. And they're like we're really excited to be working with Kevin Smith on a new take on Green Hornet for modern audiences. And Kato is going to be no longer a sidekick, but an equal partner, and will be female. I was just like, at least be upfront about it. Like
she'll have a shaved side of her head and like that bang thing.
If you guys ever want to laugh, look up Kyle Dunnigan's review of He-Man and Kevin Smith. He does those like those horrible deep fakes
looking monsters.
Well, recently Kevin has been suffering from a terrible backlash after releasing his new series He-Man Revelations on Netflix.
Okay.
Here's a picture of him crying. Kevin is baffled that fans of He-Man are so upset by his clever twist of killing off He-Man in the first episode of He-Man. You really perverted our expiation.
Kevin Smith's beautiful. He's crying at Marvel comic or something.
That's his real addiction right there.
You also think all the crying was like unregulated emotion from the weed, right? That's probably an obvious statement.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. It's strange. Filming yourself weeping.
I'm trying to think. I'm like, have I become more sentimental as I get older? I don't think so. I think I was always like varying amounts of sentimental. I've always been a fairly sentimental person anyway. Like I've pretty much always cried at movies.
Yeah, the only movie I cry at is It's a Wonderful Life. That's about it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, when I saw Rocky Balboa in like 2006 in theaters, I was crying from the opening credits. Nothing had happened. I started just crying. I was just like, yeah, this is like, I can't, but it's the opening credits were like, take it back, do. And I was like, oh no.
Tears streaming. He filmed it like Kevin Smith.
I would not soon take a picture of it. Yeah, I'm not doing that. No thanks.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.